Hi, family. You know, I wanted to cover a base about what do you do when something really kind of goes off plan. And many of you may know that recently, about 8 months ago, I had a stroke, and that definitely was off plan. But the point is how should we handle these things when they occur? And obviously, many times people would get into a circumstance of amazing amount of worry. Now, my experience with worry is that it never solves anything. It doesn't improve the situation, doesn't make you more creative. As a matter of fact, when you're worrying about something, you're basically looking at the worst case scenario, what could possibly happen. And unfortunately, when you do that, what you're going to do is you're probably going to generate exactly that, because the way the universe works is that whatever you're feeling about, I call it the focus factor. You focus on something, the worst case scenario, that generates a feeling. That feeling is going to generate an emotion, and that emotion is going to be energy in motion, is going to create whatever it is that you're feeling about. So if you're feeling about, huh, this could be really bad, and you imagine how bad it could be, well, there you go. You're going to be right in the middle of it. I want to explain a couple of circumstances that I've had where things actually worked out very well. And you might take this as an example about what to do for yourself. So one day, this was many years ago, I was driving, let's just say, a bit fast. And I was going around what's called the Baltimore Beltway. And I was careful. I was looking ahead, seeing what might be up there, traffic, police. And I saw one. I saw a car that looked like a cop car, but it really, it had wide tires. And I thought, my intuition was kind of saying, it might be a cop. And as I got up next to him, I saw, well, there's, suit jackets and things hanging in the back. And I'm thinking, well, that's not at least a normal cop. Maybe it's a Fed. So I smoothly rolled up a little past him and then went back up to my normal speed, which was pretty quick at that time. I don't drive like that anymore. And as I'm going down the road, I realized this guy's right behind me and he's got his blue lights flashing in the grill. I thought, oh, okay, well, time for a ticket. And I pulled over. He comes out, dressed very nicely. And I'm thinking, well, not a normal cop for sure, not uniformed. And he said license and registration. I gave it to him. But I will tell you that the way I looked at it, I said, well, this may be my opportunity. It might be the last ticket I ever get. Let's enjoy the experience, right? And maybe that's not what you would do, but I'm going to consider that you might think about that. So it was a beautiful day, blue skies. Everything was just stunning, almost vibrant colors, really bright. And I was dressed beautifully. I had my business suit on, cashmere jacket, and I looked good. And the surrounding area was just gorgeous. I mean, with a blue sky and all the colors of fall. And I was just reveling in how beautiful it was and thinking, well, at least I'm going to enjoy this experience. And the gentleman comes up and he says, what were you in such a hurry about? I says, well, I'm going to an appointment, but, no big deal. And I was going to an appointment. I was going to, back at that time, I think I was doing, might have been business management consulting sales. I think so. Anyway, I had an appointment with a jewelry store. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But what was really cool was it was just such a beautiful day and I was enjoying it so much. And the gentleman came up and he goes, well, I'm just going to give you a warning. I said, well, thank you. It's very nice. And he hands me my license and registration back. And I got back in my car. And I thought, well, that was very nice. And, put my stuff back in the glove box. And all of a sudden I hear he's knocking on my window. I thought, well, maybe he changed his mind. Maybe he's going to give me a ticket after all. Anyway, I rolled my window down. And he said, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, sure. Um, so I got out of the car, and we're standing next to each other on this 8-lane death strip of highway. And he said, I got to ask you something. You were actually enjoying yourself, weren't you? I said, yeah, of course. I mean, this is my only day. Today's my day. And he said, but you realize going as fast as you were, and I really was, I was zipping along. He said, I could impound your car and put you in jail for days, and nobody would come looking for you. I mean, okay, I said, all right. He said, I'm about to retire. I'm pretty close to retirement, but I would like to have what you have. I would like to have that feeling of mastering the moment. And we talked for about 45 minutes. As it turns out, his name was Jeffries. I think it was Commander Jeffries, if I'm not mistaken. And he was like the second or third top guy in the Maryland State Police. Great guy. And we had a lovely chat. We actually set up that we were going to get together for lunch and have a longer conversation. And that never happened. But the point was, by not having the fearful attitude that so many people have, they get pulled over and they go, oh my God, it's going to be horrible. I just didn't see it that way. I saw it as an opportunity to be able to enjoy the moment. So I did. And that led to that conversation from Mr. Jeffries. Now, for the rest of the story, you would think that was cool enough. I didn't get a ticket. All is well. I had a beautiful moment out there looking at the leaves and the sky, and oh my God, it was great. But here's what really happened. I went the rest of the way to my appointment, and it was a jewelry store, but it was owned by 5 state troopers, retired. And as I walked into this place, they all had guns on their hips and everything, and I'm like, well, that's an interesting jewelry store. Nobody would want to rob this place for sure. And they said, you're running a little bit late. What's going on? I said, well, actually, I just got a warning ticket from a gentleman named Commander Jeffries. And they said, Commander Jeffries, oh my God. And apparently this guy was a legend just for being a fantastic guy. And a good trooper, I guess. So they said, no way. And they said, let me see that ticket. So they showed it to him, and they went, yeah, Commander Jeffries. And they said, you realize what he could have done? I said, yeah, he told me. He said he could have impounded my car and locked me up, and nobody would have come looking for me for quite a while. And they said, yeah, that's exactly the case. I said, why didn't he give you a ticket? I said, I think he enjoyed the fact that I wasn't panicked. As a matter of fact, whatever happened, I was fine with whatever happened. And this is the point that I want you guys to understand, is that when you're faced with a circumstance, like I was faced with the circumstance of having a stroke, had a blood clot to the brain. Now, a lot of people would be so completely panicked that they would be totally dysfunctional. Well, obviously I'm not dysfunctional. And I'm sharing this because you never know you might not know. Things will happen, come out of left field, if you will. And you have to have the experience of, I used to call it keeping your knees bent when I went skiing. Busy knees. Because you don't know what's going to happen as you're halfway down that hill. Well, in life, you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. Now, then you could be worried about the outcome, or you could simply say, this is an opportunity to see what is going to happen. And just keep your knees bent and keep your attitude about it. And if you look for, interestingly enough, if you give yourself control over your space, then it's amazing what can happen when you put yourself in that good spot. So the point is, your focus on a negative potential will generate that. If you can allow yourself to simply be in a space of, let's see, and deciding that it actually could be a pleasant experience. Most people would not consider getting pulled over a pleasant experience, although in my particular case, it's exactly what happened. So that was just one example. So the rule is, think about it, well, if there is a rule, as soon as something happens, don't immediately go into looking for the worst case. As a matter of fact, I might consider the idea that life is such an amazing adventure that see this, whatever that triggering event is, as an opportunity to be in the state of adventure. Adventure, I guess, what would the term be? You would be an adventurer, you'd be an explorer, you'd be ready for anything. And if you can keep that place and look for that opportunity to be creative and resourceful, you'll be amazed at how quickly something comes up. Before I let you go, I'll give you another example of what happened. I was driving down a main road and, again, driving. I like to drive. I was driving down a main road and my car literally ran out of gas. Well, I was thinking it was going to make it, but it did not. And instead of being freaked out about the whole process, I had my phone with me. I called up a friend. I said, "Hey, I am having a fantastic day." And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, actually, I just ran out of gas and I'm out on this main road and I'm thinking that it's all going to work out great." She laughed. She said, "What can I do?" I said, "Well, if I could get about 5 gallons of fuel, and that would be fantastic." And she just laughed and said, "Of course, I'd be more than happy to." It took no time because I didn't panic and go, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And within about an hour, she pulled up behind me. We got some fuel in the car and I was able to go on my merry way. But the point is not panicking and being open that it's all going to work out. Now, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 67 years old, 68 years old. My God, I had a birthday recently. And I've got proof that in 68 years, it has all worked out. Even with the stroke, I'm learning different ways of coping. I'm getting myself back in better condition as far as physically, mentally. I did go through a pretty tough time there for a little while. I'm just saying, sometimes it's easier to pontificate about these things than it is to actually live them. However, I'm getting on the right side of this thing and deciding that there's an advantage in this somehow. And I'm looking for that. I'm expecting that I'm going to be shown what the best purpose is for this. If you hear some stuff in the background, it's just, I happen to be in a hotel room. As you can tell, it's not the most amazing set in the world, but it is what I got. And I wanted to share this message because I realize that right now things are happening around the world and things might be happening in your life. And I just wanted to give you a tool that I've really found effective for myself. So have a blessed day. Again, by the way, if we haven't met before, my name is Jack McAdory, and the name of the channel is In Search of Purpose. And maybe the goal today is to be in search of that purpose for feeling hopeful, expectant that something is going to work out well for you. Even when something really sideways happens, you lose a job, somebody calls you up and says, "We're not together anymore," they break up with you or whatever. You have to keep the knees bent, bend the knees, as I say, when I used to be a skier. So anyway, have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next one.